Savory Starters today on Let's Cook. Hi, welcome to Let's Cook. Savory Starters. Today we have some great starters that you can start a meal out with. They can be an appetizer. You could even make them into an hors d'oeuvre. Just kind of wake up the palate. That's what we're trying to do. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a tomato salmon tart. So to make the tart, first thing I have to do is I'm going to make a little bit of a short dough here. So I have some butter here. To the butter here, just a pinch of salt. We always use salt, bring out that flavor. We add our flour here. Put the top on this. We have a dough attachment right in here. We're just going to put this on. Let it start to come together. We add our liquid now, and we just wait till it comes clean to the sides of the bowl, which it's doing right now. We just want it to barely come together. Beautiful. This is now done. To finish this, I'm just going to pop this out onto the board right here. Just going to bring this together. See how it just comes together so nicely here? Don't want to overwork this at all. Then we're going to fill our tart shells. Now, let me just put this right over here. This we can incorporate into this too, because when we roll it out, it's all going to go in there. Now, have some tart shells here that I'm going to fill. I have two different types. I have these tart shells right here with a removable bottom. Very nice for the tarts. This would be if it was a first course and these, I have these nice little porcelain bowls that we're also going to fill and make nice little tarts with. So, take my dough right here, and all I'm going to do is roll this out. Now, as I roll this out and I bring it away, I'm going to keep picking up and turning the dough a little bit. I'll keep minimum flour with the dough if I don't need it, as long as it's not sticking, because that's just going to toughen the dough and dry it out. I also keep turning this because most of us are left or right-handed, and being left or right-handed, we have a tendency of having one arm that's stronger than the other. This way, we end up with a consistent size to our dough. So here we are. We're going to take this now, and I'll just use a knife right here, and I'll just cut a little piece right here to go in the first tart right here. Show you how you put that in there. Bring this over here. We're just going to take this, press it right here. Then with my thumb and finger, I'm going to come around and just have this fit the beveled edge here, or the rigid edge right here, the ridged edge. Just press this down in. Then with your knife, just come here, cut this dough off, because you can reuse this dough. You don't want to throw this away. So just come over here, cut this off, making sure that it's consistent all the way through. Then we have to do what we call blind bake. To blind bake this, I simply take a fork, I dock the dough. I get emails on this. What do you mean by docking the dough? We're not taking it into port. We're not doing that. We're just docking the dough here. By punching holes in this, we're going to allow the air that's going to come out of this when it gets expanded, the moisture is going to come out. This way it won't rise. Additionally, take parchment paper like this, put this in here, and then we take beans. You can reuse these beans. Put the beans in here to weight this down, and then we blind bake this, which means we put this in the oven for 10 to 15 minutes just to dry the dough out a little bit. Once it's done, this is what it looks like. I already have one done right here, and I can show you what it looks like, because we really don't get a lot of color on the dough. And then we just take these out, take the beans right out. In this way, especially if we're making a savory tart that contains eggs and cream, we're able to have a nice dry dough or bottom. I did the same thing with these little tarts right here too. You see how nice they look? Now we're going to make our filling to go in these. And look how cute these look right here. I have these right here. See how cute they are? And this is going to produce a really nice little tart. So let me just get these out of the way here too. Perfect. Now we have to make our filling. Now to make the filling, right in the bowl right here, I have some shallots that I've already sauteed. To those shallots now, I'm just going to put in a little bit of flour, egg yolks, right there, my heavy cream. I have some finely chopped parsley here, Just a little bit in there. And then I need to season this with just a little bit of salt and pepper. I'm going to use black pepper. Okay. Simply take this, mix this together. No cheese in here, anything at all. The shallots are going to give it a nice flavor. And by the way, if you're not using shallots, and even if you're just using onions, it's very important to saute them, to cook them off just a little bit. So there's my filling. Now I have my salmon right here. With the salmon, we're going to small dice this. So just take our salmon right here. And this is, especially when you buy salmon and you even have a little trimmings, you can use this here. We'll just take this. We're just going to cut this across this way. Nice and small. We do want it to be somewhat small before we put it into the tart. So you really want to cut this pretty small. So there's my salmon. I'm just going to take this now, put this in a bowl right here. Along with the salmon, I have some diced tomatoes here that I drained off very well. Equal quantity salmon to tomatoes. Again, this we're going to season too. We have to season everything. A little salt here. A little bit of pepper. Good. Now we fill our tarts. First thing we're going to do, just mix this together nicely. And we're just going to lay this out right in the tart, making sure that we cover it, but it's not coming up above the tart. So you want it to be really nice and small. Then even the little tarts here, we can put just a little bit in here too. Remember, we baked these tart shells once already, so they're blind baked. Doesn't this look great? Then we have our filling right here. With the spoon now, we just come in with our filling and cover our tomatoes and salmon. Just enough so it's barely coming up to the edge. Then we're going to pop these into 350-degree oven. Because we've already baked our dough, all we have to do is wait for the custard itself to congeal. On the smaller tarts, it's probably going to take about 20 minutes. On the larger tarts, it's going to probably take 30 to 35. The only other thing we have to do is just a little bit of cheese. This is just a little bit of grated Swiss cheese that I had in the refrigerator. Just a little bit of this on top. These are going to look and taste terrific. I'm going to get these in the oven. We're going to take a little break. And when we come back, a black bean soup today on Let's Cook. It's Savory Starters. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back to Let's Cook. And we are talking black bean soup for our Savory Starters. Now in my pan right here, I have a little bit of pancetta, and I just rendered this pancetta with a little bit of olive oil. To this now, I can put my bay leaves in now. I can also add my garlic to this. I also need onions in this. No carrots, no celery. The onions, because this is going to cook quite a while, do not have to be that finely chopped. So I can just take and do almost a rough chop on the onions here. So we'll just take the onion, we'll chop it up here, cut it down. So we have a nice small dice on this. There's one. Here's my second one right here. You know, the reason I tap my knife is then I know where it is. So that when I cut it, then I don't cut myself. So we have our onions here. We're going to add them to the pan. Now we're just going to sweat these off a little bit. Now we need to talk about the beans. When we go to talk about the beans, I have a bean right here. I need to show you something with this bean. I'm going to put it on the cutting board right there. Norm's going to get a good shot on this. You see this little white part right here? That's known as a hilum in the black bean, and that's where it's attached to the pod. Now, one of the reasons they say soak the bean overnight is if my hand was a hilum, this part right here is closed up when I'm dried. When I soak it overnight, it gets a little soft so that the moisture, because this is the only place or location that the moisture can actually go through the bean. It can't go through the skin if that was my hand. But when I make my black bean soup, I don't soak my beans overnight at all because they're going to cook long enough. So I just sweat this off a little bit right here. Let me just turn this down a little bit, and I'm actually going to just add a little bit of water to this because my pan just got a little too hot. A little bit of stock in there. Beautiful. Now, you can see how simple the ingredients are. You have the pancetta, the onion, the garlic, black beans, little olive oil. Then we're using a jalapeno chili to garnish, and the vinegar gives us balance at the end. So, the other thing I need to show you, on these beans right here, because you don't have to soak your black beans. You can if you want to, but you do need to pick through them. Right here on the top right here, I went through these and I saved 2 bad beans that were in here. One, see this? See this? It looks like a rock in this. Make sure you go through and you pick and you get rid of these bad beans. You don't want those in there. And also wash your beans too. So we add our beans to this. Then we add our stock to this. Now all we're going to do with this now is we're going to bring this up to a simmer. We're going to cook it covered for about, 2 hours until those beans are nice and tender but not overcooked. I have some that's done right here, right now. And you can see here with this black bean soup right here, you see how nice and loose it is where it's not just all pureed or anything. I have to remove that bay leaf. So here's my black bean soup. This is done. Now I need to finish this. To finish this, vinegar brings out the flavor. So we're just going to put a little bit of white vinegar in there. Vinegar just kind of brings a balance of flavors to it. So let me let this sit here for a second because now I have to take a little bit of a jalapeno chili right here and because we're going to garnish this with jalapeno. We want it a little hot. Now the jalapeno chili is a garnishing chili, which means I'm not going to cook this. I'm just going to small dice this, but I'm going to cut it very small. And let me just show you something on the inside here. You see this part right here? Right here, you see that? This is where the veins are. This is where the heat is. The seeds are where the heat are. So if you're working with this and they're really hot, if you remove a little bit of the vein there, it's not going to be as hot. Just take this, we dice these up. Good. Real small dice because you don't want anybody getting too big a piece of the jalapeno chili here. So we'll do that very small dice. Now that dice that I just did is also known as a brunoise. So now we're just going to take our soup now, pour it right into this great bowl right here. We finish this with a little bit of sour cream right here in the middle. I have some chives right here. I'll use the chives in there too because the onion gives a great flavor. White onion is also very nice. And then our jalapeno chilies right there. Now, I did not taste this soup for salt and pepper content because the pancetta we used in it really gives it a nice flavor. We're going to take a little break. And then when we come back, we are talking pork paillard with an apple cucumber salsa. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back to Let's Cook, where we are now talking pork paillard. That means a pork paillard is actually, we're going to make a scallopini. That's all it is. And I have a beautiful pork tenderloin right here. And with this pork tenderloin, the only thing we're going to do is where the silver skin is right here, we're going to take that off. So we'll just take our knife, just kind of come across it this way, get underneath it, and remove most of that fat. Then we're going to cut this down into about 3-ounce portions. So this is pretty clean right here. We're going to just take right here, take one here. And you notice I'm making these relatively big, aren't I? So now I'm just going to actually start to heat my pan now. And in that pan, I'm just going to put a little olive oil. Then in a plate right here, I'm also going to put a little bit of olive oil. And then I'm going to season this with a little bit of salt and pepper. Little salt, little pepper, and just a little bit of lemon juice too. So I'm just going to have to get a lemon there. So now my pork is this way. Now all I'm going to do with my pork is take this with plastic wrap. Make sure you have nothing else on the cutting board other than the meat that you're going to tenderize a little bit. We'll just use our mallet here and pound this down nice and thin. Now don't try and go too fast when you're doing this. Take your time pounding this and turn it over each time. Now, let me show you something else. The reason here, I don't use a plastic wrap on both sides. My cutting board is very clean. Also, if I have plastic wrap on the bottom as well as the top, it just kind of sticks to the plastic wrap, doesn't spread out as evenly. So I prefer to have it this way. Okay, this is good. Let me just put a little bit of lemon juice in here now too. I love how lemons magically appear. So just a little bit of lemon juice in here. Good. We want this really nice and thin, but again, we don't want to rip or tear the meat either. And you feel it to make sure it's the same all the way around. Needs a little bit more right here. Good. This one's good to go. Put that right in there, and I'll just turn this over. I'll do one more just to show you here. Again, you're going to go nice and slow when you do this. A little bit here. Now that little bit of fat that's in here, don't worry, because that's going to break down when we cook this. And we're making a great salsa to go with it too. Pound this down. And again, this is something that you can do ahead too and hold this in the refrigerator, because all you're doing is breaking down the connective tissue. And the mallet that I'm using right here is a flat mallet so that it doesn't cut into the meat. It just breaks it down and flattens it out. Great. Good. Okay, now, let me show you why I put that in and turned it over. When I go to the plate here now, I already have my seasoning and the oil on this side. I then take this paillard, I put it here, I turn it over this way. Now they're all seasoned, they're in the oil, they're nicely coated. My pan here is nice and hot. I'm just going to add a little bit more olive oil to this, making sure that that ribbons. Then we'll take our paillard, we'll test it first to make sure it's hot enough. Not quite hot enough. I'm going to have to let that get just a little hotter. Coming over here now, I'm going to make the salsa. I have some celery root here that I've blanched off. Let me show you the celery root. This is what it looks like on the inside. When you clean the celery root off, you need to make sure that you cut all this green off. So you're going to lose about 30% of this celery root when you clean it up. Unless you go like this, then you'll only lose about 10%, maybe 20. You have to bless it a little bit. Okay, the oil just made a noise. I know it's ready now. I'm going to drop my pork into the pan here. Let that start to sear off. Next, I have a beautiful cucumber here that I'm just going to take this cucumber now, and I'm just going to peel it. That gets rid of the wax on the outside of it. Just peel this down right here. There we are. This goes out right here. Then with our mandolin now, we're just going to cut this into nice juliennes. Let's see how our pork is doing, shall we? Let's see here. See how it's almost ready to turn here, where it's just about coming up? Good. Turn this over now. We're going to get a little bit more color on this. Okay. You know, these are going to take about 2 more minutes to cook. And you could cook them to this point right now and then just hold them in the oven or finish them in the pan. Let me just get my salsa together very quickly. I'm going to put my celery root there that I blanched. I have some jalapenos here, my celery root, a little bit of parsley, a little bit more jalapeno there. I have lemon juice. I'm running out of time. I only have about 2.5 minutes in show, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to take this salsa right here. I'm going to toss that together, pull my pork paillards out. We're going to take a little break. And then when we come back, I'm going to show you what this pork paillard looks like with the salsa, as well as we have our tomato salmon tarts that we have to take a look at. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back. I'm just julienning the cucumber here with the mandolin. See how nice and fine that comes out? Now we just take this, we put it in a bowl. We're just going to take this now and season this with a little bit of salt, a little bit of olive oil, and of course, a little bit of pepper. We want to make sure that we season everything. Just kind of toss this together. Now my pork is done right here. So we're just going to take the pork, let it rest on a separate plate, put it right here in the middle right here. Then we'll take this salsa right here, or the cucumbers right here that go with the salsa. This is going to be a bed for the rest of the salsa right here. Now remember, here we have the celery root with the apples, the jalapenos, the parsley, little lemon juice, a little bit of olive oil if I didn't mention that. Doesn't that look great? Okay. Remember the beginning of the show? We started with our tarts right here. See how nice these look and how easy they come up? We just come up under with a knife and they come out. This is a blind baking that allows that to happen. But don't these look terrific? These little mini tarts, you could serve these with a salad as a course by themselves. Out of this world. And then the ones with the bottoms here, see how this slides off? And then with the knife, if you just come underneath here, make sure you separate it, that will come off just as easily too. Tell you, we have some real savory starters going on here today. We made the black bean soup here with the jalapenos, a nice, light, rich, delicious soup. And of course, the paillard that we just finished with right here. And of course, the beginning of the show, we made these delicious tarts. As a matter of fact, we only have about 20 seconds left. I'm just going to take one of these tarts right now and just cut it in half so you can see how nice this looks on the inside. Doesn't that look terrific? Not too much custard in there. Just pure flavor between the salmon and tomato. Thanks so much for watching Let's Cook today. I hope your day starts out with a savory starter, like mine did. Bye-bye for now.